So, hello there and welcome to my slideshow about conditionals. So in this video we're going to focus on the real conditionals. Are you ready to go? So, here are the basics before we begin, so these are things that you probably know, but just in case, let's revise them now. So we have four main types of conditionals. We'll talk about some others along the way. So we've got the zero, traditional formula, if plus present, now. If you press this button, the engine stops. Now we've got the first conditional. The most typical formula is if plus the present will. Now, if she rings this evening, I'll let you know. Then we've got the second conditional, which is if plus the past. Would. What would you do if you became president? And the third conditional, if plus past perfect, would have. Now, if I hadn't seen her, she'd have drowned. Now, so these are the kind of basic formulas: zero first, second, and third. And then we also have some alternatives to if. Now here we've got lots of examples. We've got so long as or as long as, providing that, provided that, suppose or supposing, assuming, even if only, on condition that, unless, if and when. Now, so you have some examples there to illustrate how these alternatives to if can be used. So far so good? Excellent. Well then, let's make things a little bit complicated. Are you ready? So real versus unreal. Now this is a concept that we usually consider when talking about conditionals, okay? And not just conditionals, other grammar points, for example, if only, no? Things like that. So in this slideshow, we're going to discover the real conditionals. Are you ready? So the real conditionals, we usually consider zero and first conditionals real conditionals. And that's simply because in the case of the zero conditional, it describes something which is always true or generally true. So it's a real situation. No? And in the first conditional, it's a highly likely situation or event. No? So it's very probable, therefore it's real. No? So if something happens in a specific way, the most probable result or consequence will be the one expressed in the main clause. So this is a real situation. Now, let's have a look at our zero conditional. So we use the zero conditional to talk about things that are always or generally true as a result of an action. Now, we have to be careful with the zero conditional because in English we're not big fans of the zero conditional, okay? And really, we only use the zero conditional in the context where if can be substituted for when or whenever, no? Because if it's something that is generally true, instead of if, we can use when or whenever, no? So let's look at our examples, no? If you mix red and blue, you get purple. Well, you could say when you mix red and blue, you get purple, no? If I eat too much spicy food, I start to feel ill, no? We could also say in this sentence, when I eat too much spicy food, I start to feel ill, no? So remember, the zero conditional is for situations, events, or actions which are generally true or always true. Now remember, if plus the present simple, okay? Now in our first conditional, we use the first conditional to talk about possible actions or events in the future and their probable results. Now, if you don't water that plant soon, it will die. We can use a variety of tenses and verb forms to make a first conditional. So here are some examples now. So we can use if plus the present simple, if plus the present continuous, if plus the present perfect simple, if plus the present perfect continuous. We can use will, we can use going to, may, can, imperative, among others. No, we can use other modal verbs, for example. No? Now here are some examples. No? If you promise to behave yourself, you can come. No, that's present simple with can. If you don't work hard, you're going to fail. No, present simple with going to. If you need anything, just ask. No, present simple with imperative. If you're leaving, I'll come with you. No, present continuous with will. If you finished your homework, you can go out. Present perfect simple with can. If she's been waiting for ages, she may get worried. No, present perfect continuous with may. And this is a nice one. Eat less and you lose weight. Now this is what we call the imperative plus and or followed by will or a modal verb. Now, for example, listen to my videos or you'll be sorry. Okay, that's an example with or. And also a threat which isn't so subtle. No, well, you know my style, that's me. Now, here we have something very interesting. We're getting into the kind of the C1, the C2 aspect of the first conditional. Here we go. So we have first conditional plus should or happen to. Now, let's see. we use if plus should, or if plus happen to, and we can even combine them, no? If plus should happen to. In the first conditional, no? So it must be first conditional sentences, no? To make the event seem more unlikely or more of a chance possibility. Okay, let's have a look at my examples, no? So if I happen to see Peter, but I know I'm not going to see him, no? But if I happen to see him, if by chance I see Peter, I'll tell him to call you. Let's look at an example with should. If you should miss the train, but I know you're not going to miss the train, I could drive you to the station. And the final example where we combine the two options, if you should happen to be late, I'll keep a seat for you. Now, if you should happen to be late, but I know you're never going to be late. And if you are late, I know immediately something terrible has happened to you. So if by chance you're going to be late, okay, I'll keep a seat for you. So there's should happen to or should happen to. Now we introduce it into the if clause to make the event or the action now seem more unlikely or more improbable. Now, final thing we're going to look at, making a first conditional sentence more formal. Now we can do this with should and only with should, no? So we can make a first conditional sentence more formal by omitting if when we use should. But remember, if we omit if, beware of the consequence. Now let's see. For example, should you be considering homeschooling, you might want to reassess your priorities. Another example, should you require further information, please do not hesitate to contact me. Well, I probably should have gone with that one first because I think it is the most typical example of this inversion, no? So did you notice what's the consequence? Well, the consequence is inversion, no? So if you should becomes should you. So let's look at our sentences again. Let's look at the first one. Should you be considering homeschooling? Well, I could really say if you should be considering, no? If you should be considering, no? Becomes should you be considering. Now, should you require, no? If you should require becomes should you require, no? My auxiliary, my subject, and my main verb. No, that's inversion. No, looks like a question, doesn't it? Now remember here, one thing that I should point out, when we use should in our first conditional sentences, it's not really the modal use of should, no, where we're giving advice or we're talking about our expectations. It's just really an element of uncertainty, no? So just remember, it's not necessarily should as a modal verb. You should go to the doctor, no? It doesn't have the same meaning there. Really what it expresses in the first conditional is uncertainty or improbability, okay? And that's all for real conditionals. Stay tuned for unreal conditionals. Bye-bye.